You're live. Okay, I'm live. Am I? But it's like
Do you see like in your YouTube studio?
I see us.
You see, so we're live.
Yeah, yeah, we're live.
Yeah.
But it shows like it's also kind of weird.
What do you mean?
Anyway,
Why
it's
voice it? What's
like
weird?
now it's just we should let's jump in it. Okay, guys, this is like the learning curve. We are learning, we're new, but we only gonna get better from here. We have some exciting things to share.
Yeah.
Let's just get into it.
Let me
Amazing
do the
things.
intro, but before we do it, let's call this kind of a rehearsal stream, and then we'll do the big good, um, without kinks stream um,
Exactly.
next time we do it. But, anyways, this week isn't just another news week. It's one of those weeks you'll remember because what just happened in Poland, that's not a headline. That's history breaking through the door. Russian drones crossed into NATO airspace. Poland fired back, scrambled back, let's put it that way. Meanwhile, the world is pretending this isn't the moment Ukraine has been warning the world about. We're not on the edge of World War III anymore. No, we're in it. While America is distracted, tearing itself apart over culture wars, Putin is escalating, hitting civilians, hitting borders, and daring the West to blink first. This is why we're here to look history in the eye and call it what it is. To stop pretending neutrality is moral, to stop letting propaganda set the narrative for our future. So, welcome. Um, and before we jumped in, also help us get this very first SlavaCast off the ground. Hit the like button, drop a comment in the chat, share this stream, and if you're new here, subscribe as always. YouTube needs to know this conversation matters. And I'm not doing this alone. Johnny's here with me from the channel Young Ukrainians, and we're streaming to his channel as well. So don't forget to subscribe on his channel as well. And we're bringing you into the room, the war room. So try to get comfortable, settle in, even though the news is unsettling, but it's not just news. This
Some
is
of
the
it is pretty
conversation.
nice. We have some good news this week.
It's a conversation that shapes how we fight back. So let's get into it.
And if you guys have something that you want to ask me, I am checking the live stream on my channel as well. So if you feel like there's something that we would need to address, don't hesitate to go ahead and participate and just let us know. Also, we did have an issue with sound last time. So we appreciate your feedback. If something sounds too low or too high, so everything is in a good balance, please let us know as well. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say preliminary. Do you want to just jump into this head first?
Yeah, just a quick update from the earlier live stream that we did in Ukraine update. There've been quite a few breaking news of Russia escalating, which we'll get into it, but it's Romania now, and that's why we can't look away. So I'm just saying we do have breaking news to do during this live stream. So let's uh, let's start with Poland. The Poland. I don't like calling it incursion. It's an attack. Russia attacked Poland on the night of September 9th into the 10th. Poland's skies lit up. Russian drones crossed the border. NATO jets scrambled and Warsaw fired back. And get this, it took Poland and NATO 2 hours to shoot just one drone down. And this wasn't Ukraine's war spilling over, by the way, this was a NATO country getting invaded. And of course, Trump said maybe it was a mistake. If Poland sent 19 drones into Russia, would anyone call that a mistake? Yeah, I don't think so. So yeah, this wasn't a border incident either. This was an act of war. And pretending otherwise is how we sleepwalk into World War III. By the way, in September 1939, Poland was invaded and the world hesitated. It's September 2025 again. And Russia just crossed into NATO airspace. History isn't rhyming, it's literally screaming. So, Johnny, do you have any of your talking points?
I mean, this is a huge escalation. We can see that Russia is getting bolder every day. And partially why they're getting bolder is because of what we're doing and how we are reacting. That's one side of it. Obviously, United States and Donald Trump has done everything to make Russia feel as comfortable as possible with all these escalations. But on the other end, Russia is really struggling on the battlefront. Ukraine is beating Russia. Russia can barely hang on to the front lines as they are right now. So this tactic is something that Russia has done before. And the reason for this, it's not for Poland to invoke Article 5 of NATO or Article 4 of NATO. It's not for allies to do any kind of escalation. It's just to keep Poland busy and afraid and take care of their own defense while, Poland is scrambling to see like how they can defend against these things. They have less time to think how can they help Ukraine, how can they support Ukraine, what kind of weapons they can send Ukraine. And that is Russian tactic to ease Western support of Ukraine, because while Poland is afraid for its own safety, they don't have time to think about Ukraine. Russia has done this before. They have, obviously, we know that Baltic countries are huge supporters of Ukraine. And what Russia did, I think it was last year, they started building fortifications at the border of Latvia and Lithuania and Estonia. And that was really scary for those countries. And it worked on for Russia's benefit, because Estonia, Latvia, they started building their own fortifications, because you have to get ready for what Russia is going to do next. It turned out that Russia doesn't have any troops to spare, so all those fortifications that Russia built, they remain empty. So it's like an empty threat, but it still forced a reaction from Baltic states, where they had to build their own fortifications. They had to reinforce their own border. And at that time, they didn't have time to support Ukraine as much. And that worked to help Russia. And this is the next level of the same thing. They gonna pretend attack NATO. Of course, Russia is always doing something that they can kind of back away from. They can say, oh, it was a mistake, or we didn't want to, or the drones lost control with the central hub, and sometimes Russians don't even have to say anything, because Western countries are eager to make excuses for Russia right away. I think Donald Trump, nobody asked him, but he just said, oh, it was probably a mistake, and the drones were shot down over Ukraine and they fell into Poland, which was completely false. Nobody said that, not even Russians. He was eager to make an excuse for Russia, and that's a trend. He's not the only one. Of course, we know that Donald Trump is friendly with Russia, but people who are not friendly with Russia, they're afraid of Russia. They also may be eager to make excuses. Like the West, they may say, oh, let's figure out, let's not call Article 5, let's see what's going on. And Of course, Russia cannot control everything. They kind of trying to do this to help themselves at the battlefront, but it will have negative consequences for Russia. The West is not dumb. The West does have survival instincts, survival mechanisms, and NATO is mobilizing. In fact, even though there was no Article 5 called, there was Article 4 called, and that's a huge escalation on NATO's part. And big props to Poland for actually standing up and calling for Article 4.
Johnny, you're being, in my opinion, being very optimistic towards Poland and NATO having what it takes to actually do this. I personally don't think they can do this. They were scrambling to shoot the drones down. I mean, Poland is a huge army, but they don't have combat experience like Ukraine does. They don't have the anti-drone systems that Ukraine does. So, and NATO, I think, including Poland, they need Ukraine, I think, more than Ukraine needs them. I'm not gonna lie. Like I honestly think they're cowards, NATO, and that Ukraine is doing NATO's job. What NATO was essentially created for, which is to protect from Russian invasion.
In a way, that's exactly what's going on. NATO is being cowardly. NATO does need Ukraine more than Ukraine. Well, we need each other, of course. But we've been saying it from the start of the war, from the first days. Listen, Ukraine is protecting Europe. Ukraine is doing NATO's job right now. But it's not obvious. This made it obvious. Like, it's a wake-up call for Poland, by the way, you know what happened after this whole incident? Denmark, Poland, I think Romania, Germany, they all approached Ukraine and they said, can you sell us these anti-drone missiles that you've been working on? And that never happened before. Right now, Ukraine is at the forefront of the modern battle.
I mean, of course, and it's been there for a couple of years now. And again, Ukraine has combat experience. Your army can be huge, but if you just don't have that experience, and frankly, Ukraine is the only one that knows how to fight the bad guys. So, axis of evil. But it won't stop there. Actually, like just days after the Polish drone attack, Russia and Belarus have begun Zapad 2025, which is their joint war games at NATO's doorstep. It's not just training, it's lines being drawn. Zapad 2025 isn't a routine drill, it's a message. It's a show of force with nuclear-capable missiles in the mix. They're Iskander missiles, which are actually on the way to Belarus as we speak. So while everyone's shouting about border violations, Russia's quietly rehearsing war with its allies right in Europe's backyard. Poland is closing borders. NATO is sharpening its defenses. The frontier isn't theoretical anymore. This is the chessboard. If these exercises were purely defensive, why choose locations that make every neighbor feel threatened?
That's a show of force. They've done it before the large-scale invasion every year to show NATO allies, back off. Once they attacked Ukraine, Putin said, if you send any kind of help to Ukraine, you're going to be next. Of course, that was a bluff. Everything that Russia is doing, a lot of it is a bluff. And it's a good thing because Russia is bluffing a lot, but it's also testing our resolve as United States, as Poland, as NATO. Of course, they're just killing Ukrainians, so there's nothing to bluff over there. But everything else, it's up to us to call Russia's bluff, For example, right now,
Do you think they're bluffing with Aryashnik? Because they do have Aryashnik as well that they're doing their battlefield drills with.
definitely. Right now, Russia can barely contain the Ukrainian front. They throw everything at Ukraine and they cannot do anything. They have no
But
capability to
they
attack
have
Europe.
Norks. They still have Norks. They get help from China, from Iran. I mean, their Shahed drones are, they make an insane amount. So yeah, maybe their army is shit, and they are, because I mean, a million casualties is insane. But that doesn't mean that Russia will stop shooting Shahed drones or Aryashniks or Iskanders.
I mean, the quality of the army is not very high, but they don't have shortage of people. You know, when you look at the numbers that Ukraine has killed, almost like 1,100,000 Russians at this point, uh, you have to think about the volume of people. They're all armed. Each one of them has an AK rifle with them, with bullets. They're all shooting at Ukrainians, some of them successfully killing Ukrainians. You know, to destroy that much over the Russian army, it took a great effort. Ukraine paid in blood for it. And also, not just, shooting back at Russians, Ukraine had to innovate. Ukraine had to come up with brilliant strategies to contain everything. So Russia has been stopped. They cannot break Ukrainian front. They cannot do anything else. They're very desperate. Oh my God, this day,
Yay!
this day just got much better. Let's all welcome Commander McMillan. Commander
Hope we can
McMillan,
hear
welcome to the
him.
stream.
I can
We're
hear him
just
Can you hear
typing.
me?
pretending. We can
Yes,
hear you. Yeah.
perfect.
We're just
Thank you.
pretending that we know stuff over here. Just, waiting for
I
you to show
pretend the
up. I'm
same.
like, I keep talking. Like, when is Commander McMillan gonna show up? I'm running out of breath over here.
No, I
Yeah,
dropped the
but
link real quick. I was like, jump on, Commander McMillan.
oh my God, this is great news. You guys are in for a good treat over here. So yeah, we're discussing Poland. Basically, that's a big escalation in the war.
No,
That
there's
puts everything
Romania
in
now too,
perspective.
though, and that's the breaking news that Romania is now.
I haven't heard that. What's happening in Romania?
So, let me get to my notes.
And when did that happen?
Today,
Is that like today? Oh my God.
I'd say
See?
about, well, now like 9 hours ago. So
Wow. You
Interesting.
cannot snooze.
sorry. It was-
Slavie, make sure you're in the center because you're the lady. We're ugly men and you're a beautiful woman.
To be honest, I have no idea how to switch anything, but when you guys
Okay.
are discussing, I'll play around with it. But
Okay.
yeah, so some of the breaking news that happened was, by the way, I just looked up some facts on this. Russia and Belarus estimates of 13,000 troops that were declared for Zapad 2025, though some analysts suspect additional forces scattered in supporting drills as well. I don't know, Commander McMillan, is that a lot or is that regular?
It's smaller than Zapods had been in the past prior to the start of the operation. But as I think I mentioned on the shills when we were talking about this is really more of a gesture on the part of Russia to try to, we're letting you know we're serious kind of thing, because they have canceled and not held the exercise because it used to be an annual exercise. They've not held it since the start of the special military operation. So the fact that they're doing anything with that name attached to it right now means that they're going to special lengths to get their point across.
By the
They're
way,
desperate.
Zapad means the west in Russian.
West?
Yes.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
the direction where they're trying to attack. It's a scare tactic. It's a
Yeah.
technically a military exercise is an act of war. It's just not the hot war. It's the colder part of the hot war. But that's how it's
Well,
viewed by foreign
yeah,
affairs.
let's be honest, both sides conduct exercises on each other's frontier. So it's not war per se, although both sides always felt that if the other side were going to start off with a war, they would precede it with staging exercises of, oh no, we're not planning to attack, we're just conducting an exercise on the border. And then because they've already had a chance to build up forces at that initial assault wave, yeah, that's when it happens.
I also
so.
But
want
I
to
think when
remind
you
everyone
couple,
that
go ahead.
before Russia did the full-scale invasion on Ukraine, they did have those exercises. And till
Yeah,
the last
exactly.
second, they were saying, "Oh, it's just exercises. It's exercises. It's exercises. Oh, we're invading." So they will lie to you. Unfortunately for Russia, at this point, it's a bluff. They're completely overwhelmed with everything that's happening in Ukraine. They can barely contain Ukrainian front. They don't have capability to attack Europe, but they
No.
are showing that intention to make Europe busy with defending themselves. Maybe at that point, Europe will have less time to show support for Ukraine because they're just afraid for their own safety. That's Russian plan. I hope it's going to
Yeah, I
backfire
think
somehow.
it's less a matter of them trying to force NATO, Europe to move their own defenses instead of sending stuff to Ukraine, and more a th- there's a show that was on US TV some time ago about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And at one point, the American admirals are arguing with the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State. And the argument is, oh, the Russians are preparing to attack, and they're going, no, this is the language of diplomacy. They are letting us know that they are upset, and we are letting them know that we are upset by moving forces around. So it's a form of language in the diplomatic world is what they're doing. And when you couple that with the recent intrusion of drones into Poland, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but assuming Slavie's correct that they did the same thing with Romania, yeah, this is the language of diplomacy. They're saying we're very upset, and if you don't back off, we're going to do something. And they're doing that because all their previous threats of, oh, yeah, we've got nuclear weapons, pay attention to us, we're real important. And it's gotten to be almost comedic in its effect right now because they've done it so often and nothing's happened. That's kind of what's going on here is they've realized that threatening nuclear war doesn't work. So now they have to make it really apparent that we're getting serious.
So this is actually a perfect segue into the
Yeah.
next segment, because while the world's or whoever's paying attention, they're locked in Poland, Russia just about 9 hours ago just flexed hypersonic firepower over the Barnett Sea. I don't know, is this another warning shot or a rehearsal, or much worse? They fired flying Kinzhal missiles over neutral waters. These kind of maneuvers force NATO, I guess, to respond, I hope. I haven't seen the response. But to me, I think you guys are being way too underestimating Russia. I think they're ruthless right now. The more they lose, the more ruthless they'll get.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. It's not, they are ruthless, but this is called desperate. Russia is showing
Yeah.
its desperation. they are overwhelmed with Ukraine. They cannot break Ukraine. This is part of their tactic to switch things up because they're out of options
Exactly.
right now. So this is good and bad, and so it's up to us to make it really good for us and bad for Russia, or they can exploit it to the lengths that they will possibly be able to take it.
Right. I
So
think this
I see this
Zapad,
as a desperation.
I see it like Zapad 2025 is becoming less about drills and more about testing boundaries. And when you mix drills and hypersonics, things get dangerous fast. And NATO, the last thing they want to do is go to war with Russia. So their cowardice with that is, I mean, they were telling Poland, don't you dare do Article 5. Don't, you've seen how many memes, like NATO is like holding Poland back, don't you dare, or pushing Poland away if they do Article 5.
Let me at him, coach.
Yeah.
Let me at him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what we have to deal with. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen.
At this point, if Russia does something to provoke NATO into reacting, the war is as good as lost for them. They don't have the forces to prosecute the war effectively against just Ukraine. Imagine what happens if NATO intervenes, even if it's just NATO air power. I'm not even saying, let's pretend ground forces are off the table. Air power alone would crush the Russian forces.
Commander McMillan, do you
Russia,
think
yeah.
there's a chance that China can put boots on the ground with Russia?
China's got their own ambitions, and they're working that side of the fence. And
They're looking at us.
they might, but I seriously doubt they will. Yeah, I mean they're having enough squabbles over Taiwan and the Paracels and Spratlys in the South China Sea and all that stuff. They're they're over, I won't say they're overcommitted, but they're committed to that area. They're not going to want to send forces to the
Right.
Ukrainian front.
They get
And
nothing from this, right? But they do,
right now, the only
however, do
reason
sponsor
North
Russia, though.
Korea is doing it is because North Korea is getting something out of it. What that is, I can't tell you, but yeah, the
I
North
can tell
Korean
you.
forces that are being deployed are effectively mercenaries.
Well, Russia is giving North Korea the capability that they otherwise wouldn't have. It's new
Right.
rockets. After North Korea started aiding Russia on the battlefield, they unveiled that they have a rocket capable of reaching United States. It's a North Korean mission statement that they will not rest until United States is destroyed. We should understand who we're fighting against. And they don't have those rockets. They don't have those scientists. They don't have those capabilities. And Russia provided that in exchange for boots on the ground.
Yeah, that's probably part of what they've done. The issue is that they don't really have that big of an arsenal that they can commit if they were to go to war with South Korea slant the U.S. Uh, I think the number of nuclear weapons that they have weaponized, in other words, attached to a missile or something, is probably less than a dozen.
It's probably correct. Of course, they're so closed up, we don't know much about what's going on over there. But at the
Yeah.
same time, North Korean army is one of the biggest in the world, if not the biggest in the world, until at least in the manpower department. They have close to 3 million army, which is bigger than United States and China and Russia. Obviously, Ukraine has about 900,000 at this point. North Korea is a huge, big army, and
I heard that whenever the soldier like Norks, they fight for a dictatorship. Usually, that means they're on a losing side because they don't fight as well as the civil side, I guess.
They are extremely poorly trained to the extent that, for comparison purposes, the average North Korean soldier gets to fire off about 20 rounds with his, rifle or whatever per year. The Americans probably are doing that, and, the Western Europeans as well, probably doing that much in a month, if not more. Air Force, their pilots maybe get 50 hours of flight time a year under very controlled conditions. Western pilots do that in a month. It's just, and as we saw with their performance when they were committed on the Ukrainian front, they're pretty abysmal soldiers.
I think a lot of them just gave up because Ukraine was like, you want some food? You want to watch some porn?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, there's two sides to this as well, because, no matter how many of them and what quality they are, if if North Korea sends 10,000 troops with rusty AKs, that's 10,000 troops with rusty AKs. When you have a person running at you, poorly prepared person with a rusty AK, you still have to deploy your tactics, you still have to fire your weapons, you still have to figure out how to neutralize them. They also want to survive. They're not as dumb as like we would like them to be. I mean,
yeah. And we've said that before, which is, everybody makes a joke about, oh, the Russians are pulling T-62s and T-54s out of storage to commit to the front. Yeah, but they still shoot explosive rounds that can kill people. You have to deal with them. The same thing with, the North Korean troops may be abysmal, but you still got to do something to counter them. You can't just ignore them.
yeah, it's very hard. All of this is taking a lot out of Ukrainian forces. Ukrainian forces have to be on top of their preparation form, utilizing the best of the tactics that they've developed, constantly inventing new things that they have to do, because Russians and North Koreans are learning as well. They're not just going to run to do the same trap day after day. They evolve. They use different things. So Ukrainians have to evolve. Ukrainians. So unfortunately, as much as it's comforting to say that North Koreans, they're not properly trained, they're not properly armed, it's an inconvenience, to say the least. It's not something that's nothing. It is something. It's not nothing. It is something. That's how I'm gonna put it. Yeah, but right now, of course, they cannot do anything with the front. In fact, in the last month, we tallied it up, and Russia gained some ground, Ukraine gained some ground. The overall math, Ukraine earned back 58 square kilometers of its own land. So they're getting their asses handed to them right now. Ukraine is doing beautifully. Ukraine is breaking that Russian front. Of course, it's not victory yet, but at the same time, we can see victory in sight. Did you guys heard about how Ukraine is systematically taking down Russian oil reserves and refineries and natural gas and oil capability? Last week when we were talking about this, Ukraine has neutralized 21% of Russian oil. At this point today, it's already 25%.
Yep.
So we're moving in the direction of completely, basically destroying Russian money. That's how Russia makes money. And
Between their
hopefully,
banking crisis and the oil revenues going down, it's going to get really hard to continue to finance war.
of course, Putin has come out and said that this war is cheap, and they get enough money from sales of oil, and they can continue this war for very long time, you know, right now that message begins to sound less and less convincing because at some point it's true. You know, you look at what's going on. Russia still sells their oil to India, to China, to whoever will buy it at this point. They're trying to go around sanctions. They have this pipeline, Druzhba, it's going directly into Hungary, directly into what's the other? The Slovakia, the two Russian allies in Europe, and so that's been hit. They cannot pump their oil into Europe right now. By the way, this week Ukraine hit Druzhba pipeline again, but in a different pump area. And that pump is out, and again, they cannot pump their oil into Europe.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting that the damage to the oil infrastructure is impacting the domestic economy because gas prices and gas availability, gas not meaning gas, but petroleum, is getting really hard to get hold of in Russia. They're starting to ration it. And particularly in the outlying oblasts, it gets problematic because that's the only way to commute because towns and villages are so far apart.
Exactly. And we've seen those beautiful pictures and videos of these huge lines of cars in Russia trying to buy gasoline, and they're limiting it. They say 10 liters per person. So if you're in a car of 3 people, you can maybe get 30 liters, which, you know, it's like less than 10 gallons, I think. Like
I thought that it was
7 gallons.
actually 10 per car, not per person.
Even better. I mean,
Yeah.
let Russia do the Russian things.
But guys,
I'm
these
okay with that.
videos are, I mean, the video goes on and on, so the line goes on. So as car moves, goes on for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, you're just driving and you can see like for miles just never-ending stream of cars trying to get gasoline.
I've never seen that much of I guess line traffic ever that huge.
And this kind of
But the
breaks
boyars won't have to suffer any shortages.
the boyars, yeah. And this
Yeah.
breaks the fundamental agreement between Putin and his people, because at the beginning of the
Exactly.
war he said the regular people will not notice it, will not suffer. Like, and as the war progressed, Ukraine would send like little drones here and there, and Russians would laugh it off. They would say, ha ha ha, it's like poking an elephant. You know, you're just putting like throwing a little poke at an elephant. But all these little pokes, they've started adding up because Ukrainian attacks are coordinated and very meaningful. Ukraine has to do with very little that they have, and they have to produce an impact. And they learned how to use these little drones to the devastating effect. I mean, who could imagine that they will destroy 10% of Russian oil?
And Ukraine is being
Let alone
so
25%.
strategic.
Exactly.
Very strategic. So, and they're also taking out like trade. I don't know if we talked about it here, but like railroads as well, because Russia is really relying on them. And Russia being so huge, it's actually going against their favor right now. Yeah, they're huge, but that takes a lot of time and to move things. And yeah, railroads, but Ukraine is, you know, while Russia is being a big bad bear, Ukraine is being that quick, like taking out like all their steps. Ukraine is 10 steps ahead by taking out their.
To tie this back in with what we were talking about earlier, you know, with Zapad and the drone incursions, it shows Russia's sense of impotence that so much of their aerial bombardment is not directed against infrastructure or anything. It's, you know, hitting hospitals and apartment complexes. That's you start hitting civilian targets when you can't think of anything else constructive to do to prosecute your war. And that was the first indication of how bad things were getting for them, is when they started saying, well, okay, we can't hit anything useful, let's hit people.
Yeah, it's basically the usual thing for Russia, their tactic of terrorism and
Yeah.
just war crimes all across the map. And it was kind of course, Russia will never admit that they've hit like a hospital or a shopping center or anything like that. The first time they actually admitted that they hit a hospital was after Vladimir Putin visited Alaska. He came back, they hit a hospital, and that's the first time that Russians said, listen, we hit a hospital. And that's a huge like escalation in their rhetoric when they can feel so safe and secure to say, listen, we hit a hospital, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And if you go back historically, like with the British, they started saying that they knew the tide was turning in their favor, just a tiny bit, but it was turning in the favor of the Allies when the Germans, during the Battle of Britain, shifted their targets from the British airfields to London. It's the same principle here. When you stop hitting military targets and start hitting civilian ones, hoping that the people will rise up and overthrow the government to end the war, it shows that you're completely impotent. It really does.
Exactly. And the history shows that it doesn't work. I mean, people
Yeah.
do not want to give up to somebody who's throwing bombs on their heads. They don't want those people to come in and take over. You know, people will actually use whatever resources they have left to fight till their dying breath. And that's what Ukraine is showing right now.
Yeah, and I think it speaks volumes that the Ukrainians have been very careful to try and avoid hitting civilian targets, because I think they understand doing that actually turns the Russian people against them. The longer this war goes on and the harder the deprivations on the Russian people become, and the fact that Ukraine isn't really spanking them, it's spanking the oil infrastructure and stuff that hurts the oligarchy and Putin himself and the military forces. That really shows a complete fundamental difference in their strategic approaches, that one side understands how to fight a war and the other doesn't.
Zelensky always
Yeah, and
said
Russia,
that the Russians need to feel the war, and not the actual Russians that live in the rest of Russia, the ones that live in Moscow and St. Petersburg. They're the
Yep,
ones that need to feel the war the most, because if they get
exactly.
uncomfortable, Putin's done basically. That's what he's
Yeah.
mostly scared of. That
and also it's going to get worse for Russia because OPEC Plus, which is led by Saudi Arabia, just announced that they will increase production by October of this year, which will bring the price oil way down. It's projected to have the 5-year low estimates. This is, of course, devastating news for Russia. I don't know why Saudi Arabia is doing it at this time, but I welcome it with both hands.
by the way, totally
Somebody got on the
random.
phone to the prince and told him, the crown prince, and told him, you know, we'd really be happy if you were to help lower the oil prices.
There's been a lot of stuff coming out of Saudi, that's for sure. Now the women in Saudi can dress themselves, because before the men, I know it's totally random, but the men would dress the women, tell them what to wear. So they're doing kind of taking steps to be more Western, but I don't know. But
Hell,
also
they allow women to drive now.
very progressive, very.
Yes. For them, it is. I know we laugh about it, but it's a
Yeah.
huge step.
Also, did you see, totally off topic, but maybe not, that Saudi may have been involved in 9/11?
That's one of those little nuggets been rolling around, for 20 years now.
Oh, really? Okay, that's just me.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It's like
The
Russia is saying
connection
sometimes
which
that
is valid
Ukraine.
is that of the 20 uh, 9/11 perpetrators, 19 of them, I think it was, were Saudi.
right.
The other one was the Egyptian.
It's
And so
always
the claim
Egyptians
has
in
always
there.
been, yeah, the Saudis were behind it. And then if you really want to go down the bizarro rabbit hole, it's no, no, the president coordinated with the Saudis for them to conduct the attack. So it was really an inside American CIA type operation.
Oh, okay. So it's not the Mossad anymore. But anyway.
No, no, no. It's
Anyways,
because they're hiding the fact that the president had worked with the contractors who built the place and they weren't built to code and the steel was failing and they had to find some way to make it all look like it was an accident before anybody realized it was all because they'd use improper building materials. And just it goes way off the rails into la la land.
yeah. Well, quick detour there, but let's get back to onto Ukraine. Um, Something awesome that Ukraine did, they hit one of Russia's spy ships near Novorossiysk. They smashed its bridge, knocked out its eyes, and sent a very clear message. Nothing behind enemy lines is safe anymore. It's Ukraine being Ukraine. Turning
Yeah,
ships into fish food.
I heard that. That's a great thing, and I had a little bit of that ship. So basically, the attack happened on September 10th, just like what 3 days ago, and it was reported by intelligence of Ukraine, and the class of ship is called MPSV-07. It was commissioned in 2015. So as far as Russia goes, it's a very new technology for them. It costs about $60 million. At this point, Russia has a total of 4 such ships. It's a project ship equipped with diving complexes, remotely operated vehicles, a side scan sonar, electronic reconnaissance equipment, and it can be used for seabed service. So it looks like it's a really high-tech, useful equipment for Russia, and it's
It's
gonna
a spy
hurt that
boat.
they lost it.
I think
Yeah,
it's a full on. You
No,
said
no, it's for looking for underwater minerals.
right.
right. Yeah. So it's a good thing that that boat was destroyed, and good thing for us. Good job, Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Do you guys want to talk about? For me, we can see right now that Ukraine has started Battle of Crimea, right? So last week it was not as obvious. Like this week it's more and more obvious. So what Ukraine is doing, it's all a coordinated effort, all works kind of together. They announced the Flamingo missile. They started kind of putting that idea out there that the first one of the first targets might be the Crimea bridge, but they did not hit the Crimea bridge, and that was done on purpose. They hit like a security service building in Crimea, where Russians have their brightest and biggest minds over there. So that was a show of force to the Crimeans inside the Crimea. And Ukraine strategically did not take out the bridge. And that's also a good thing, because when you corner your adversary in a corner and they have nowhere else to go, they will fight fiercely. But if you leave them a golden bridge to escape, that works in Ukrainians' favor. So besides that, they did attack Crimean Bridge with small drones. That was just, of course, everybody understand that that's not going to destroy that bridge. But that was, again, part of the psychological tactic. And on the other hand, Ukraine started meticulously and systematically taking out anti-air defenses of Crimea. And there was a list that I had, I cannot find it right now, but there's a bunch of different things that they took out. There was C or S-400, there was a book, there was like a bunch of different things that Russia put in Crimea, and now it's no longer there. And because of the strategic importance and kind of like a propaganda and ideological importance of Crimea, Russia has to keep replenishing those anti-air defenses, which Russia doesn't have enough right now. So that works beautifully for Ukrainians' sake, because Russia has to keep putting more anti-air defenses within Crimea, and Ukraine will keep taking them out.
I really think they're gonna go
Hitting the
for
bridge is kind of a fool's
yeah.
errand. I was going to say, hitting the bridge is kind of a fool's errand because it's literally one of the strongest defended areas in all of Russia at this point. So using it to make them think you're going there and then hitting something else is actually a very effective tactic.
I did hear that that bridge, although it would be very symbolic to take it down, but it's not really would be that useful to take it down at this point.
Yeah, at this
I
point, the
think
majority of the
Ukraine
supplies that are
yeah.
flowing into Crimea are coming via rail,
Right.
not across the bridge, but through the other provinces along the coast, along the Azov coast.
Ukraine is taking those out too.
I think
Don't
it's
tell
part of
everybody.
I think it's part of Ukrainian strategy, and it goes back to like the art of the war by the Chinese philosophers. You leave your opponent a golden bridge, by which they can escape. You know, because if opponent feels like they're backed into a corner, they will just fight more fiercely. When you give them opportunities, and Russians can start thinking, okay, we can still escape by the bridge. You know, that will work to Ukrainians' benefit. And by the way, let's go back to 2014, how this war started. This war started from occupation of Crimea. Russians took Crimea first. Everything that's happening right now is because of Crimea. This is a payment or a payback or the result of occupation of Crimea. To Ukraine, Crimea is a peninsula. To Russia, Crimea is an island. Because to Ukraine, the Crimea is connected by two land bridges, two very small strips of land. To Russia, it's not connected in any way, but they did build this bridge. In fact, this bridge is actually larger than those two small strips of land that are connecting Crimea to Ukraine. And that was the big point that Russians made at the time, because it's impossible to take Crimea by force, especially at that time when Ukraine didn't have a large army. So as long as you're controlling those two strips of land and you're controlling the Black Sea, there's nothing Ukraine can do as far as take back Crimea. Because all you have to do is just make sure that you put like firepower on those land strips. It would be suicide for Ukraine to attempt a land mission on Crimea. But at the same time, if Ukraine doesn't do the land mission and just uses the Crimea for a target practice to take out air defense, then Crimea turns into a sitting duck. And all those things that Russians said about what makes Crimea easily to defend against the land invasion are the same things that make Crimea very hard to defend against the tactic that Ukraine is doing right now, which is they're using their drones, their missiles, everything they have to systematically take out the defenses within Crimea, which Russia has to replenish because of the ideological and the strategical importance of Crimea. And that's like becomes like a really pressure point, like that Ukraine can just utilize to the fullest. And that can actually win the war for Ukraine.
It's a very symbolic target. The Russians can't abandon it, So as long as the Ukrainians make it look like they might be coming in that direction, the Russians have to continually reinforce and commit more forces to defending it, which then means fewer forces to support actual offensive operations in the Donbass, for example.
Exactly. And this whole thing that's happening right now also shows the strategic kind of genius of Ukraine, because up until this point, everybody was kind of thinking that Ukraine is kind of playing for a short war and Russia is playing for a long war. Russia has been boasting about, we're so big,
By the way,
we can. Right. Well, they were boasting we can fight a war of attrition, and Ukraine cannot. But what's happening with Crimea right now, it's kind of turning the tables completely. Now the time is playing on Ukrainians' favor, and it looks like the longer it takes right now, the worse it is going to be for Russia. And people should never confuse. Of course, Ukraine said, oh, we want the war to end. We want the peace today. But there's a difference between wanting the peace as soon as possible and be desperate for that peace. Because Ukrainians understand that they can turn the tables on Russia and make time work for Ukraine. And that's what we're seeing in Crimea today.
Yep. Also,
yeah,
that
and the
first,
Ukrainians know that they're. Go ahead, Liz.
no, go ahead, Commander.
I was going to say, the Ukrainians know that they are fighting for the literal survival of their nation. So they're in this for the long haul. For the Russians, the longer this war goes on, the more damage is done to their economy that's going to take not just years, but decades to recover from. And effectively, this war is ensuring that Russia will not be a significant player on the world stage after this war is finished for at least a generation.
I'm really hoping for that. However, we have to also take into account that Russia doesn't want that. And, their summit in China that they just had recently, where they showcased how many countries they can get behind the message of uniting with China, with Russia, and North Korea, out of all places. That also has to be taken into account, because in our world, in the current world order, Russia is a loser. They will never win and they will never recover. But Russia wants to break the current world order. They're not interested in this world to remain where it is anymore. They're done with this world. Their only option is to break the world order, to make sure that United States is not a leader anymore. The United States says like America first and just does what they do within the American continent. Never go to Europe, never go to Taiwan. And that's what unites these countries. They're trying to break the current world order. We're kind of all fighting to survive in a state which existed since forever. And Russia is doing everything to destroy this world. But they're not alone. We have to be mindful about this summit that was in China last week and how much it represented more than half of the world, population-wise.
Thank God you take out China from that and have
there's India. India is as big as China as far as population.
Yeah.
So you have 1.5 billion in India, 1.5 billion in China. You have what? 60 million in Russia. However many there's left.
The scary part here is what Russia is doing by Dugin's philosophy is multipolar world, where small nations do not exist anymore. So that's imperial thinking, and they're absorbed into United States. So Latin America would be United States, Europe would go to Russia, and then China. So that's the multipolar world, and I'm
Yeah, it's Orwell's 1984 version of the future.
yeah. And a lot of these, like Elon Musk and I always forget the other guy, the crazier guy. Um,
Crazier than Elon Musk?
yeah, he's even scarier. Um, the Palantir, the guy that has an AI called Palantir, which is frightening. Uh,
Oh,
Peter
I've heard
Thiel.
about that.
Peter Thiel.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
these billionaires with so much money, I mean, I'm sure they're all on drugs, but these kooky ideas is the most frightening thing ever because they support these ideas of multipolar world. They think they're thinking outside the box of all these philosophies, and they can control AI. It is scary what's going on right now, and I just hope to God that people take control back because we don't want these guys to even to be supporting Russian because
You know,
essentially it came out of Russia, or
yeah.
you know.
If I were an ambitious Chinese leader, I'd be looking to the north about now, saying, hmm, lots of empty territory with lots of mineral and natural resources, and the guys who own it really don't have anything that they could send to stop us if we wanted to go north.
Well, to be fair, that's exactly what's going on. Do you know about territories of advanced development? Basically, what Russia did, they created a section of Russia, they sectioned it off, and gave the control over that land to China. It's called Territories of Advanced Development, TOR.
Yep,
Have you heard about this, Slavie?
I
I
have
have.
not, but I'm intently
they
listening.
they gave control of these territories to China for the next 49 years, and it's basically the territory is like 5 Crimeas. It's huge territory, right? In 50 years, it's like Putin is not going to be here. We're not going. Maybe we're not going to live that long.
What?
50
Putin's
years is a
gonna live
long.
for another for till 150. You didn't hear
Oh,
him?
well, of
What
course,
are you talking
Putin
about?
is going to live till 150. That was a fun thing. But basically, Russia kind of did give up its land to China already. China already included it in its maps, like in the high school. Chinese students are learning
Yeah.
like these are Chinese territories.
Think of
Russia
Belt
is.
and Road, except Russia is the part that they're doing the stuff to, as opposed to Africa.
You have to realize that China doesn't have forests. China doesn't have wood. The forests that they do have, there are restrictions. You cannot cut those off. And at the same time, after Putin gave those territories to China, China became the biggest exporter of wood to United States. Where is that wood coming from? It's coming from those Russian territories you
Yeah.
know and if and they have all Chinese people. They just move in there, they live there, they settle there right now. I'm It's looking like Russia will never get those territories back, although on paper it's still Russian territory. Like in like UN maps, it's still Russian territory, but factually China is there. China is already there. And that's how that shows the nature of Chinese Russian friendship. There is no friendship. Chinese hate Russians, right? They just hate them. They study in high school that the biggest, like the way Russians study that the biggest enemy of Russia is United States. That's how Chinese study in high school that the biggest enemy is Russia. They just hate Russian guts. But at this point right now, Russia is presenting to the world, listen, we have a powerful ally. We have China on our side, which is not true. It's a very kind of like not even symbiotic, it's a parasitic relationship where China takes Russia for everything they can right now viciously. and good for them, I
We
guess.
all know who the lesser partner in this arrangement is.
Yeah, who is up and who is down?
Yeah.
A little, a
Not
little,
quite client state yet, but it's getting there slowly.
a little gay joke in there. By the way, fun fact is Russia claims that they have 140 million people living in Russia, and and China has 140 million registered homosexuals in China. Beautiful country, China. So if you're homosexual in China, you have to register. They have 140 million registered homosexuals, one for each Russian. So when they come over, they just I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what to do with that information, but it's just a fun fact. So the way China is utilizing its strategy with Russia, they don't give Russia anything. They don't give Russia an inch. They see what Russia is doing. They just give Russia enough for Russia to sustain what Russia is doing, but they don't give like an inch more than that. And everything that they're doing, it's heavily calculated to the point of, China is getting all kinds of favors in return, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like this next story. It's one of my favorites, but you guys heard me do this in the previous stream. It's that the Army of Russia retail chain closing now because there is so many losses. And Army of Russia is like, it's a store for like army clothes, like a surplus store.
Right.
Yeah. So
Is it in Russia?
no. Yeah,
It's where?
Army of Russia is in Russia store.
Okay, so they're selling the clothing, or what's going on?
Yeah, it's like a surplus store, like an army
Right.
store of Russian. But it's a chain, it's a retail store.
Right.
And yeah, it's unprofitable anymore because they're just losing so many men. And I mean, the economy is shit, but the whole,
So now we know where all the hardware or kit that's supposed to be used by the Russian soldiers is going. It's being sold in surplus stores for profit.
yep, yep. But the reason is because it had persistent unprofitability. Um, so that's
And if you guys don't mind, I just want to do some shout outs. I have some activity on the live chat and YouTube. I want to thank Broadcast Cat, Alvin Archer, Spider Fair Fella. Thank you guys for commenting. That boosts the stream, that makes it more visible, and that makes our message come across a little better. Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much for tuning in. I know it was kind of last minute, but if we don't do this, we're never going to do it. So,
We had some technical difficulties, but we
Yeah.
overcame those difficulties.
we did. And we'll be doing a lot of live streams whenever there's big breaking news. We'll be doing it, so you'll be seeing a lot of us. So the faster we figure this out, then the smoother these live streams will go. They're also recorded. So after this, we will be making short videos and episode videos with all the news. Obviously, they're not going to be so stretched out. They'll be edited, and I'm really excited for that. So make sure you watch for that in tomorrow or on Monday on both Johnny's channel and this channel as well. So exciting news. And make sure you watch it. Click if you see anything, always click on it, watch it, stay as long as you can because it really, really helps.
Like and subscribe, make this message famous. Can we talk about my favorite news of the week? We have two of Russia's most prominent propagandists in big trouble. One is in a coma, and one has cancer. And you're not supposed to feel joyous about things like that. But you know, we Ukrainian Nazis, we're different. We're wired differently. So basically, Tigran Keosayan has been in coma for 9 months, and his wife Margarita Simonyan, both of them are vile, just horrible people, amplifying Russian message of genocide. They're basically instilling the message that a Ukrainian is a derogatory term, a Ukrainian is a less than human. Margarita Simonyan, she's a main editor of RT network, which includes Sputnik News and other things. They're making movies, they're making videos, they make programming, radio translations. Both of these people are supremely powerful in Russia, very filthy rich. They have properties in Europe, in United States, in Great Britain, everywhere. They are, both of them are educated in the best educational institution in Europe and United States. Margarita Simonyan was going to high school in United States. She graduated from Sorbonne, Paris University in Paris, France. They received the best education that the West, the liberal West had to offer. They were completely immune to our way of life.
The decadent West.
The decadent West. All they talk about all day, every day, is how the West is a broken tool. It needs to be reworked from the ground up, reforged. Ukrainians are subhumans. Margarita Simonyan famously said right before they attacked Ukraine in 2022, she said this war will be 2 days, no more than 2 days, very confidently. Her husband,
specify
right,
which 2 days.
yeah, I mean, it's like biblical 2 days, you know.
2027.
The God created earth in 1 day, the stars in another day. It's the biblical 2 days.
Yeah.
So, and her husband, Tigran Keosayan, which is like the vile, the horrible human being, he was very sadistically, he was looking into the screen right before the Russian invasion, and he was saying to Ukrainians, it was his message because he already knew that Russia was going to attack. And he was saying, I say hello to everyone, Ukrainian comrades, enemies, and adversaries. We will definitely be in Kiev sooner or later. Sooner, actually, by the way. I don't want to upset you. With his smile. You know, this guy has been in coma for the past 9 months. They did come to Kiev, but they had to retreat. And Margarita Simonyan just announced that she has cancer while receiving a medal for her great achievements in vilifying and dehumanizing Ukrainians. By the way, Slavie, are you able to put any pictures on stream for people to see?
Yeah, we can. I don't know if we all can do it, but I can share. Oh yeah, I can upload media as well. I can try to figure out while we're talking. Can't promise much, but that's why I need to practice.
I need to be a bummer. I gotta log off in about 2 minutes. So
Okay.
No way.
sorry.
Sorry, but no.
Yeah, we're kidnapping you. You're stuck with us.
Twisting my arm behind my back. I can feel it.
Slavie, do you
Yeah,
see? I
my
sent you a
wife has
couple
bigger
photos there.
twist.
Yeah, but let me go on while I do this. Oh, you're
All right,
just.
so
Oh, you want?
I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here. Hope to do this again sometime real soon. So
Yes, Commander
you take care,
McMillan, you're
Slavie. You too,
always
Johnny. I'll
welcome.
talk to you guys soon.
We'll let you
thank you
know
for being
next
here.
time we're doing this, so you come on with us. Thank you so much.
Sounds great. Okay. Take care, guys.
Yes, Johnny, I got your pictures. It's just pictures of her. Do you want them up?
Yeah, let's show the people this face. We did a stream earlier, and we had a person, Phil, and he personally knows this woman. She's very, very dumb. She doesn't understand the simple things of any kind of international relations. Even though she was educated in Paris, she grew up in the United States. Were you gonna say something, Slavie?
Oh no, I just figured I got a light bulb moment, but I do want to say something on her. So after you're done, I'll say my two
And
cents.
Russians, they do listen to her because she's theirs. She is completely banned in most of the Western countries right now, so she cannot go to Europe, most of the Europe. She is of Armenian ethnicity, but because of her genocidal messaging in her programming, Armenia banned her from entering Armenia. How piece of crap of a person you have to be where you are this prominent Armenian in the world with much influence, much money, and your own country, your historical homeland banned you for how horrible and genocidal your messages are. She is also known to her friends and enemies as a beaver eater. She famously, one day, she made a live stream where she cooked a beaver and ate it. I don't know
I
if you
had
guys,
no idea.
have
She
you
ate a
heard some,
beaver?
have you heard people calling her beaver eater?
Like
Babrayetka?
a beaver, the animal, or like beaver, like woman's beaver?
Beaver the animal. Babrayetka. Have you heard it?
No, I've never heard that, and I bet
Anyway,
Canadians must be pretty upset.
that's a fun fact. And basically, the people who that's why I want you to show her picture because people who were watching that stream they said you're not supposed to eat your kind because people say she looks like a beaver and
Oh no
she
no,
ate
beavers are
and
way
she
cuter. Sorry.
beavers, by the way, are so much cuter. But let's. She's like, if beavers had like a beautiful beavers, like a 10 in beaver scale, and like a 2 in beaver scale, she would be like 1.5 on the beaver scale. A beaver would look at her and be like, no thanks. You know, beaver will look at her and say, is there a ship left? So yeah, so that's yeah. Philip Itner, thank you, Adam. Adam Rounds,
It was
Philip
great
Itner.
when he said, "She's so dumb."
Yeah, it's his words. I mean, he met her personally, and he discussed things behind the scenes. Potentially, he was gonna get a job with RT. RT pays great money for Americans who are willing to repeat Russian narratives. And in a way, I think it was a blessing in disguise. He didn't get the job at that time. That was before the whole war and everything. But I think it's a great thing because I think a people of high moral character like Philip, he would lose that job anyway, eventually, like many people did when the war started. So yeah, it's good. It's good that Philip didn't get the job after all.
Yeah, I don't want to do this much work to show her ugly face, her hateful face.
Anyway,
Um,
yeah,
Next time we'll have
it's
it
gonna
preload. Next
it's
time
gonna
we'll have
trump.
preloaded photos, so it's ready to go instead of like doing this during a live stream.
Okay, you guys Google her and tell us, does she look like a beaver, or we're actually being unkind to beavers right now?
We're being unkind to beavers for sure.
We
Also,
apologize to all the beavers watching this
yeah,
program.
to Canadians, because beaver is a national Canadian animal.
Beaver is a great animal. I mean, I do feel bad, like even comparing this vile person to a beaver.
They're an important part of like the ecosystem, pretty much
Yeah.
essential for any of us to survive. Kind of like bees. That's what beavers do.
Okay, so we shouldn't call her a beaver eater. Well, she's a beaver eater.
Do,
She ate.
do you? I'm
She
sure you
ate a
guys in
cute.
the chat understand what beaver eater can sound like. It's dirty.
Not in the Russian. In Russian language, it just
But we're
sounds
not
like
talking English.
she's.
That's why I was like a beaver eater. Beaver eater is like, you guys in the chat know. They're laughing. Yeah. I was like,
So I wanna talk about what's happening within Russia. Russia is doing their thing where they go to prisons. They've done it since the first day of war. They go to prisons and they allow criminals of different persuasions, like murderers, rapists, sign a contract with Ministry of Defense of Russia and go to war. So what happened? Most of these people, they died fighting Ukrainians, but some of them like received some kind of contusion or a bullet wound or something like that, and they came back to Russia, but they're now free men. So we have these rapists, murderers, all kinds of criminals just roaming Russia right now, and it's not without consequence. So I want to do some reporting of what happened this week in Yekaterinburg. A military court sentenced a participant of the war with Ukraine to 12 and a half years in a strict regime penal colony for murdering his wife on the very first night after their marriage. So the victim's relatives claim that he wasn't even taken to the correctional facility. He just expressed the desire to return to the special military operation, that's what they call to the war, and he was released again. So we have a murderer. He went to the war. He got released. He married some Russian lady. He killed her on the first night of their marriage, and he signed up to go to war again, and he doesn't even have to go to prison. At the same time, in Vladivostok, the perpetrator of a high-profile murder has been released. He had beaten and raped a girl for several hours, pulled out her hair, knocked out her teeth, and then strangled her. After leaving her body in the garage, he stole her car. He was sentenced to 24 years in strict regime penal colony. But the murderer has been seen in public several times. He signed a contract with the Ministry of Defense and was later discharged after being wounded. This all comes from a Russian source called Sibir Realii that report on these things. And basically, since the start of the invasion of Ukraine, Russia has been regularly releasing murderers, rapists, and those convicted of other serious crimes. And this is just two stories, but you have to realize there's thousands of these stories. What a beautiful, what I'm trying to say, if you have a chance to visit Russia, don't go to Russia, because you're gonna have these maniacs just roaming the landscape, and they don't even have to go to jail if they do anything to you, because all they have to do is sign another contract with the Russian Defense Ministry and go to war and kill some more Ukrainians if they're lucky.
I don't think Russia is a tourist travel destination for merry Americans, especially, they're the confused ones, like on the MAGA side, that think, what a beautiful Christian nation Russia is. Most Americans are like, they know that Russia has no plumbing. It's a big gas station. That's all what Russia is. Nobody wants to go to Russia. Or unless you're like, sorry, an American dude and like go for like Russian prostitutes. So that's another reason people go there.
I just lost some of my lighting over here. The battery is giving up, but we are not.
Oh, you still have good. Like it's not that bad. Like,
it's not that bad? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Slavie. I'm gonna go ahead and charge this.
The people in the chat are still laughing about calling her a beaver eater.
that's the nickname that she earned by her actions, by her life's work, and soon she might not be with us anymore.
It also underlines, like, and I always make this point that Russians, they never developed like as humans. They were savages, they still are savages, therefore they eat beavers.
And to the point, there's nothing wrong with eating beavers. That's a popular food over here in America. Like the Americans, the hunters, they hunt beaver, they eat beaver. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a funny thing that she's doing. It's very unusual for Russia. For Russia to eat a beaver, it's like to eat a dog. You know, you'd never find anybody in Russia or Ukraine or any part of that world eating beaver. It's so unusual over there.
Listen, in Russia, they're starting cannibalism again. They're eating each other now, so.
Unfortunately for them, and I guess kind of expected in what they're doing. Let's talk about some language differences. I think that's kind of fun. Russians keep saying that, oh, we are the same people as Ukrainians, just let us conquer Ukraine, we're all the same. Of course, that's a big lie. Our cultures are different, Ukrainians and Russians. Our language is different. And here's a few examples. For example, victory in Ukrainian is перемога, and that means overcoming your ability, like doing something excellent, over excellent yourself. And in Russian language, victory is победа, which means after misery. So Russians are obsessed with победа. They always live in a perpetual state, like right now it's really, really shitty, but we're gonna have our victory someday. And those are the differences right there in the language. When in Russians, like every time when Russians come together, they drink. Right away they drink to победа. Right away that kind of like the mental picture that's always with the Russian. Their life is a misery, and that's the first part of differences right there. For example,
can I just point out something? Also, whenever Russians did win, it's only because, like in history, it's only because Ukraine was, like, let's say, like in the Red Army, there was a much more Ukrainians than there were Russians, actually. So anything that Russia could have done that's sort of good, Ukrainians were most likely involved. And if you hear about these great heroes like Russia, they're Ukrainians. These great Russian painters, they're Ukrainians. So
that's 100% true. In all the wars, Russians would mobilize Ukrainians, send them to the front lines. Ukrainians would win a victory for Russians. And, in between wars, Russians would do genocide of Ukrainians, which unfortunately Ukraine had to endure several times throughout its history. In fact, when Soviet Union was first formed, in the first official census, there was 81 million of Ukrainians and 79 million of Velikorus. Velikorus, that was the name of Russians before they were called Russians, because they only started using the moniker Russians in 1937, since Stalin.
Velikorus is big Russians. That's what it translates to.
Yes, that's the imperial name of Russians. It was a great Velikorus, which is a great Russian. And funny enough, Ukrainians were called small Rus, or small Russians, or lesser Russians, even though there were more Ukrainians. But by today, there are less Ukrainians than Russians because of all those genocides that Ukrainians had to endure. In fact, right now,
I really, sorry, keep interrupting you. I really want to normalize not calling Russians Russians, because Rus is actually, they stole it from Kievan Rus.
It's Ukraine.
Technically,
it's Ukraine.
Yeah, and there is no such thing as like Slavic Russians. They're like Mongol. From those times, they were like mostly Mongols. So whatever features they adapt, the Slavic features they did adapt, it was from Europe and Ukraine. So I really don't believe there's a Russian Slavic source. So they have to steal this history, these traditions. So whoever actually owns, like, created them, Ukrainians, they always try to wipe us out. So they would take everything that's good and make it their own. Everything, including their name, Russia, Rus, the real. I don't want to call the real Russians are Ukrainians, but the real Ruthenians, like Rus, are Ukrainians. What Russians should be called is Muscovites.
Yeah, historically they were Muscovites. In 1721, Peter the Great, he took the name Russia, which well, he didn't even take name Russia. It's Rossia. Rossia. It's a Greek. It's how Greeks called Ukraine. Ukraine was called Rus, and Greeks called Rossia, and the other European countries called Russia. So, like Polish and German called us Russia. This Greeks called Rossia, and that's what Peter the Great called Moscovia. He called it Rossia, but it's our name. They took our name, the name of Ukrainian territories. And that's kind of, that's the gist of it, because it goes back to history. They took our name, now they want to take our land. Well, they've always wanted to take our land. They've always used our name. But we are completely different. And that's that kind of all this history of 300 to 400 years where they continuously trying to overtake Ukraine. They continuously try to genocide Ukraine, and Ukraine persists. Ukraine is still standing strong. That's amazing in my book, and that also shows our differences, how different we are. Because Russia starts a war every few years. Ukraine never attacked anyone. It's like the most peaceful nation in the world that can really fight and kill a lot of Russians.
Sorry, I'm just reading. Somebody said USSR historically hates Slavs, hence famine in Ukraine than Poland, which you should take more seriously now that Poland is concerned. I mean, Soviet Union, they hated everything that was cultural, religious.
Yeah, they wanted to create one ethnicity out of all these different peoples, a Soviet person. They called it a Soviet person. In fact, when Stalin renamed Velikarus into Ruske, that's the actual name that Russians are using within Russia. He said that this is going to be ethnicity for anybody to join. So Ukrainians can be Ruske, Belarus can be Ruske. Anyone could join that ethnicity, and many people did. And today, Russia is doing that same messaging. When they capture Ukrainian children, when they capture, when they have people who just move away from war, they go to Russia, they offer Ukrainians, hey, why don't you change your last name to a more Ruski sounding name? Why don't you, of course, you cannot speak Ukrainian language once you're in Russia, because you are automatically a Nazi. You're going to be persecuted viciously by Russians, not by any authorities, not by Putin, by regular everyday Russian. They're going to end your life, but they are, it starts with the language, it starts with history. They steal our land, they steal our language, they steal our people, and that's the nature of this genocidal war.
Yeah. Also, Putin and the whole because Slavics and Slavic people, his idea is that we're all one. The Slavic people are all one, and the actual Slavic person knows that's not what makes Slavic people. It's many different nations, and each one of us has our own history, has our own languages. Real Slavs know that maybe generally we're one people, but we all are so different. That's what makes us like unique. And but Putin's idea of Slavs is we're all one. We're brothers and sisters. So like they came save Russian speaking like in it's always been like that. It's not just him though. Russia has always manipulated the narrative whenever it fits, basically.
And at the same time, if you talk to Russians and they tell you, oh, we're all Slavs, we're all the same, and then tell them, oh, what about Polish? They hate Polish, and Polish is like the most Slavic nation that there is. But Russians just hate Polish because they could not effectively conquer Poland. Russians have done a few genocidal attempts against Poland throughout the history, and Polish they remain defiant of Russia. They remained free, and Russians, if they cannot kill you, they just hate you. They just spread messages of how subhuman you are, and that's why they couldn't conquer you. So yeah, I mean, you talk to Russians and they're like, oh, they call everything around Russia Slavic, and then whatever is Slavic, that's ours, they say. Because we are Slavic, you are Slavic, we're all Slavic, but they hate Polish people. They hate them. Let's continue with the language quirks and differences.
Can we speed it up because there's still news that I really want to get to talk about like what's happening.
Yeah, I only have
in
three.
The United States. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Before we get into
we did like one,
cultural.
and then we talk about for like 40 minutes about how well it's a good information. I'm glad
Yeah, no, it's great. I
gives
love
us-
it. It just maybe next time we could be like, okay, this is a news stream, and then we can do like a cultural stream and talk about
yeah,
these
guys,
things. It's
we
great.
don't have a structure here. We
But
don't
we
know
will.
what we're
We
doing.
will.
But anyway, so in Ukrainian language, a hospital is called likarnia, which is a healing place. And in Russian, it's called bolnitsa, which is a place of pain, right? Bol is pain, and bolnitsa, the place that's a healing place, essentially, that's a place of pain. And just for the sake of speeding this up, a crime in Ukrainian is called zlochin, which means evil doing. A crime is evil doing. And in Russian, it's called преступление, which is stepping over the line. So there's nothing wrong. There's just all these lines, and you step over the line, and that's a crime. So it's an act of defiance for Russians. It's an act of just, you've been caught. It's never an act of something evil when we talk about crime with Russians. And I'm done with the language differences. Even though they keep going on and on and on.
I was just answering the chat. I
I also
love
have
this.
I also have a question in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, but we should have more cultural and like streams like this and language.
A broadcast cat is asking, which cathedral is oldest? Moscow Novospassky Monastery, 14th century, or Dormition Cathedral in Volodymyr, 12th century? Well, he is kind of answering this question in his own. He's giving an answer in the question there. But if you go to Kiev, you can walk in Kievo-Pecherska Lavra on 11th century stones right there. First, there was Ukraine, way before Russia ever existed. In fact, all the Russian cities were established by Ukrainian rulers. Like Moscow was established by Yuri Dolgoruki, Ukrainian dukes of the time. Why did you do that, Yuri? Think before you do something. Now we have this. We created Moscow, and we will bury Moscow.
Well, actually, I just did a little segment on this to feel it out, but Ukrainians actually have the oldest civilization in the world, older than Mesopotamia. And
Yeah, they just
it,
uncovered something like 30 or 40,000 year old
yeah,
settlements in Ukraine.
yeah,
That's
it's
like the
crazy.
very new thing. And they used the new technology, the sonar radar, where they scanned the land and they found this what settlements like from really, really old age.
And
That's incredible.
what they did, they're called trillions, and it makes sense because they would mysteriously burn down after like a couple of years. They would burn down their houses, and many say that that's what turned Ukraine's soil black, and that's why it's so fertile. Because every couple of years they would burn down villages and then move to another one.
That's interesting because
Yeah.
Ukraine contains about 90% of the world's reserve of black soil. Ukrainian soil is legendary. Nazis have put Ukrainian soil on trains and took it back to Germany in 1940s during the war because of how valuable Ukrainian soil is. And it's a great mystery of why it is so fertile.
Well, not anymore. Now I mean, there's so much to know. Like Ukraine is such a mystery because only now we're starting to actually have the technology and the freedom, frankly, to uncover Ukraine, and I honestly think it's the cradle of civilization itself. And if you look at where Ukraine is on a map, it's literally in the middle of the world. So even energetically, it's quite a place.
Slavie, you just like to rage bait the Russians who are gonna tune into this stream. They're
Oh,
gonna be
do we have
tearing their
Vikings over
hairs
here?
out.
Oh, I can go
No,
all day, all day.
no, not Ukraine. Fuck Ukraine. No, okay. Sorry about that.
I got
Anyway,
excited. I
if
thought we
you,
had Vikings in there. I'm like, ah.
that would be nice. Please, please come, Vatniks. They have an appointment with Kabzon, so they don't have time for our for our stream over here. Inside joke. Slavie, do you want to get to some news? You said we're not getting up speed here.
We're having such a nice conversation. I kind of feel bad going into.
But we have to.
We have to,
It's our
because
it's our job.
yeah, and it's happened because we're Ukrainian, and it's happening in United States, and it happened here, and
Yeah, we have some devastating news, some heartbreaking news.
yeah,
Do you want to go or do you want me to
yeah. I'll
go?
present
I
it.
think it's better if you do it.
Yeah, on August 22nd, 2025, a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee named Irina Zarutska boarded a Charlotte light rail train. She survived the Russian invasion, made it to America, and was just living her life. 4 minutes later, she was stabbed 3 times in her stomach and in her neck, in full view of strangers who did nothing. I mean, I'm sure we all saw the video. Even if you didn't want to see the video, we still all saw it, which is in itself is it's not normal to see videos like that. And but the first videos were clipped, so it was, you know, conveniently clipped. But the most chilling moments cut out, and the outrage came slower than it should have been. But when it came, the conversation turned to the killer's circumstances, to his mental health, and to his homelessness. Because the mayor of Charlotte, Democratic mayor of Charlotte, said, let's show some compassion to the killer. I mean, many that I had discourse with are still somehow trying, just because the right is politicizing this, we have to be the other side talking point. So I'm totally not with this, because Yeah, he didn't know she was Ukrainian because we always say she was a Ukrainian refugee, and many on the left say, well, he didn't know she was Ukrainian. Yeah, but she was the only white person. She was clearly singled out because she was white. And I do believe also that the rest of those people that did not help her because she was white. You look at the lady, at the black lady next to her, she would never have helped her. It's sick.
You know, I'm gonna give all those people a pass. You know, um, I mean, you can be scared in that situation. You see, like let's say if you're like a black lady over there sitting, and you are seeing like a maniac just knifing like a white girl on a train. Like you can be scared for yourself. You know, like you don't immediately think like, okay, she's white. Somebody's being murdered in front of your eyes. That's a that's an experience that many people are not prepared for. So I
Yeah,
don't
but what
think,
about the three guys that were watching this whole thing happen and didn't even,
again,
I would scream. I know
again,
there's no audio in these videos, but none of them are screaming, that's for sure.
again, you know, the guys the same way. We are kind of, you know, we live in a Western world, in the Western comforts. A lot of us are not prepared to deal with that gruesomeness, that nature of the moment that they experienced. I'm not, you know, I'm not condemning any of those people. I don't know how I would. I think I would behave differently. Like I would be a hero. I would stop that murder. You know, that's what I want to think. But I was not in that
Do you have
situation.
compassion for the killer as well because he had mental health problems?
I have zero compassion for the killer. The thing is,
By the way, the
everybody.
guy that first guy that walked away out of the shot, after there were like after a while, people that were finally helping her after she died, that guy is standing there filming the whole thing.
Wasn't there like a camera in a train? The stationary camera
There
of the
was a
train?
couple of angles, but what he was filming it for him. He was filming the whole thing. The first guy
Slavie,
that walked out.
I have to pause this for a sec. I'm so sorry.
Oh. Um, yeah, guys. I I I really don't have compassion for any of it. The only I just after I watched that second cut, I was I cried for about a good 2 hours because I was feeling pretty enraged. I'm not gonna lie, and it was it was terrible. And now, like, I understand the left. They're like, well, you know, since the right and like people like Elon Musk, they're politicizing it because it fits their narrative. Yeah, you can still agree, but not like I think the people that I had discourse with, they thought that all of a sudden I was going to MAGA's side. Like I was like, I mean, I did say I agree with the right-wing media on this because they were making a lot of noise when left-wing media was very quiet about it until way later. That's all what I agreed with. But a lot of left talking points is like, do you know who supports this and politicizes it? Yes, I do. Do I like them? No, they're like, hell no. But just because I agree with what happened, because we all have eyes, you're being dishonest if you can't voice what you saw. So that's all what that is. I don't think anyone's all of a sudden going to the right and but yeah. As I
To
said,
me,
I'm at center.
I give a pass to all those bystanders for the way they reacted. You never know how you're gonna react in the face of this gruesome just murder like that that's happening. The only person who was guilty of that situation was the killer. There was a person that's clearly killed an innocent
No,
woman
nope.
who
There's
posed
more
no
though.
threat.
He should
Who
have.
else?
He was a criminal already. He shouldn't have been free. He has a long list of crimes that he did.
Right, right. No,
So
I understand. Like if
the
we look
judge
at
actually, Irina Zarutska's boyfriend came out and he condemned the judge to let the killer walk after his other crimes. So
right,
there's a lot of, guilty. I guess the judge was also on the left. So that, show compassion thing.
speaking of the larger picture, of course, we can see how we arrived at that situation. But just that situation alone, there was only one guilty person. And the guilty person was that killer who killed in cold blood somebody who had no threat to him, like an innocent. Like you look at that girl, like this thin little girl. She was not any kind of threat, and it was so heartbreaking to watch that. So as far as that incident, it's all clear to me what happened. I mean, I don't even think we should discuss the actual thing. What's more important is the aftermath and the political games and the political climate and the tensions within the American society. The everything, the whole hell broke loose, right? Everyone came out, and there was such a different messages on the left and on the right side of this equation, right? And what's kind of irritating is I generally agree with the left, but the left was saying like crazy things, like mental health and stuff like that. And when you look at the right of this, the most sane, the most good information and messages came from people like Donald Trump, like Elon Musk, people who are generally hate, like Matt Walsh. Do you know who Matt Walsh is? He's a right, like just a crazy person. But I just want to read his thing that he said. According, in a wake of this Irina Zarutsky murder, he says, in our society, we do not talk about sin, evil, wise or bad choices anymore. It all has been subsumed under the banner of mental health. Every evil action is a symptom of a disease. A guy randomly murdering an innocent woman on a train is merely showing signs of a medical illness. Savage killers are morally indistinguishable from cancer patients. This is the root of many of our problems. This is a good message that anybody can stand behind. While on the left, we have New York Times that are saying, oh, something happened, like somebody got killed on a train, but the right is like exploding it, like making it look like, we have a crisis or something. Trump is gonna exploit it or whatever. Like they only care about like the tally of political situation right now, of the points of who is getting what. So in this whole aftermath, it appears that the left wants to make sure that the Trump is going to be forever, because a regular person, well-meaning person, is going to look at that, like let's say if you're a white lady, and you look at all the messaging that the left is producing right now, you're going to be horrified. You're going to agree with the right, and you're going to go and vote for Donald Trump again. Of course, Donald Trump cannot technically run for a president, but you're going to vote for what comes after Donald Trump, for J.D. Vance. It's going to be a lesser evil for you in this aftermath. I generally despise Matt Walsh. He's a horrible human being. But look at this message, what he's saying. It is so easy for the left side to come out and say something reasonable, something that will put people at ease, that you recognize an evil act, that you don't want this to continue. instead of making this political theater. And
Yeah.
all you do as a result is you putting points in the hands of Trump, in the hands of all his cabinet, all his surroundings, J.D. Vance, all of those people. You're elevating them.
Yeah.
People
I
have
think that
people
sorry, I
have
think
sisters, people have mothers, people have daughters. The only demographic that voted against Donald Trump for Kamala Harris, 98% of black women, they voted for Kamala Harris, right? But every other demographic is for grabs. They're gonna decide, who am I gonna vote for the next election? Am I gonna vote for the next iteration of Donald Trump, or am I gonna vote for something reasonable, for some change, if you're not giving people anything to look forward to, if you're just giving them up to these criminals, to these, for slaughter like a pig on a train, I don't blame the next election cycle when another Trump is going to come to power. And that's what's happening right now.
yeah, I completely agree with you on that. What the left could have done, which actually would be more unifying, if they would be like, hey, I agree with you. We agree with your point. That would knock the
Exactly.
right off their feet. They'd be like, that's how you.
It's so easy. It's so easy. Become a better man, a bigger person. Like, don't fight on everything. It's a clear act of violence. Everybody's horrified. We have video of this. There is nothing to tally up politically. You don't have to fight for everything. You are making sure that Trump is going to be forever.
Yeah. And the more left they push, the more I think why we're having why Trump won is because the left pushed too far left, frankly. And many people are like, we don't want it. We don't want it, there's a lot
And then
of
we have all
discussion
kinds
going
of things
about, but
like update: Wikipedia editors push to delete the killing of Irina Zarutska by a black male in Charlotte. An editor has nominated the article for deletion. Freaking why? Like, why? You cannot win this fight. You cannot. And it's not a good fight. It's a fight of a maniac. Don't even fight this. Why? What do you have to gain? She was murdered. We've seen what happened. Freaking left. I'm telling you, you're digging your own grave right now. You guys want to win the next election and you do this? 80% of people are
the
in the
left to
middle.
win the next election. Don't get us wrong. Like, we want, but this is not how you do it. You don't keep pushing
Listen,
left.
and I also want to point out that we are Ukrainians. We don't view this as left, right, liberal, Democrat. You are all Americans, right? And that's how the world sees you. When you elect Donald Trump, it's not MAGA elected Donald Trump. It's all of America elected Donald Trump. Everybody, all of Americans did their part, and now Donald Trump is president. And if some of the things that you did are this, let's do mental health, let's help this young man heal, then that's how you elected Donald Trump. Donald Trump comes up and says, we're going to have a swift trial and we're going to do a death penalty. 10% of people are MAGA, hardcore. 10% of people are super hardcore liberals. But 80% of people are always deciding what they're going to do next. Who are you going to vote for? The person who wants to protect you? Of course, it's not his job. It's not Trump's job to protect you. It's just messaging. But it's the correct messaging. It's so easy to be correct on this issue. It's not about her being Ukrainian even. I even hate that the right is kind of like grabbing onto that fact. And also, it kind of throws a lot of left messaging under the bus because you've been supporting Ukraine, you've been saying we have to support Ukraine, and then you come out and do this. That kind of makes everything sound hypocritical. It's like, yeah, I support Ukraine, but I'm not sure on this one. When it's a clear-cut case of just a gruesome murder.
Going back to that scene, though, it really feels like how other countries are just being bystanders and watching Ukraine, fight and drown and lose their own people, and they're just standing by. So I think a lot of Ukrainians connect. I mean, it's why it's so traumatizing in so many ways, and I I was still trying to figure out my emotions and the depth to this, but it definitely, I don't know, maybe because I it could have easily been me, like there's something like, I don't know, just awful feeling about this, obviously, but
Like generally I'm repulsed by most of the things that Donald Trump is posting.
yeah.
When he does another post on Truth Social or like X or whatever, I'm like, it's worthy of ridicule. But like for this, he said the animal who so violently killed the beautiful young lady from Ukraine who came to America searching for peace and safety should be given a quick, there is no doubt, trial and only awarded the death penalty. There can be no other option. President Donald J. Trump. Okay. Is there anything like that on the left at this time? Can you search anything on the left? It's just something that people will. It helps us to. That's why we have police. That's why we don't want to be, not us Ukrainians, but just people in general. We don't want to be slaughtered like pigs on a train, And I understand, like, I'm probably not going to be attacked, but because I'm a male, I have muscles, I might do something back. But I don't want Slavie to be murdered. If I have a sister, I have a niece, I have a mother, Like, this is the kind of messaging that you can easily turn to your advantage.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
And
the
we
whole thing that
we
I
actually
noticed, like they're talking the left's talking points was like, who supports us? Like Elon Musk support. They're politicizing it. That was all I heard, and I was like, what are you talking about? So what? So what? They're right. Do I like them now? No. Hell no. Awful people, but they're not wrong. Why can't you say that they're not wrong? It's weird to me. It's weird.
Adam Brown says, I got stabbed 7 times from a MAGA less than 2 years ago. Guy tried to cut my head off. He only did 6 months. If that is true, I'm glad you are alive. I'm glad you survived. And hopefully, the guy has what's coming. It's not about MAGA. It's the political message comes after the actual incident. When somebody stabbed you, and I'm sorry, I'm truly sorry, deeply within my heart. I'm glad you're okay, and I don't want anyone to go through that, even if it's a MAGA. It doesn't matter. Nobody should go through that. But that's an act of violence. A violent person, a murderer, is doing a vile, a gruesome thing. But the political message comes afterwards. Oh, who stopped who? Oh, it was a black person, white person, liberal, that is sick in this country. That's a sickness. And believe you me, Russians are exploiting this to the max right now, because Russians, they have a cyber army, the biggest in the world. And they log into like flat Earth channels, the QAnon channels, all the MAGA channels, and they start saying, "Oh, it's a genocide of the white race. It's this and that." They're saying, "Oh, vote for Donald Trump." They want to kill you all. Russia is exploiting this as crazy, and you're not giving them. You're giving them ammo. You're giving them ammunition.
They're also
To type.
exploiting the left, by the way. They're doing it on both sides. Every extreme movement, Russia
Yeah.
is behind it. It's
Russia
not
will
just-
exploit everywhere. Even
Yeah.
if you don't do anything, Russia will exploit you. But this is giving them all
I
kinds of
think
ammo.
somebody said it. It was amazing. In Russia, if you're not interested in politics, politics will be interested in you. So that's kind of the Russian way.
We have to talk about one more murder. Charlie Kirk has died at age 31 after being shot at a university event in Utah. Again, it's a gruesome murder. It's a horrific event. It's with great sadness I took that news. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. This should not happen in a civilized society, no matter who it is. There's no other way to look at this, as this is wrong, vile, and insane. We should all be unanimously against anything like this. There is no place for a second to doubt that this was unacceptable. Charlie Kirk, I disagree with almost everything that he is saying, but I do agree that America is a place of debate, discussion, disagreement. He would not go to people's homes. He would go to universities, and university is a place for debate. It's not a safe space. It's a place where your ideas have to be challenged. If it doesn't matter how you approach Kirk, if it doesn't matter what he said, we have courts if he is doing something illegal, but he wasn't. And there is no way you can have anything like this done to a person, to a human being, especially in America. It's such an un-American thing. And to this murder, there is nothing else to say. It's wrong to the levels I cannot express how wrong it is. It's horrible and gruesome. But what we can discuss is the aftermath, the political theater that started right after all this happened. And again, it exposes United States, all our ills, all the things, how divided we are, how much healing we have to do. And right away, I think about Russia, Russian cyber army, all these disagreements that we're happy we have somehow. We have this culture war, the war. Russia is exploiting this. They're happy. They're ecstatic. They don't care if you're MAGA. They don't care if you're MAGA. They don't care if you are liberal, if you are communist. They don't give a crap. You are an American. You are an enemy. And you have disagreements, you're gonna die, according to Russia. And you're just giving them ammo. Sorry, Slavie.
Oh, it's okay. You're passionate about it. It was great. But I think Russia has a hand in these shootings, because there's a lot of shootings going every day. When Charlie Kirk murder happened, there was a school shooting in Colorado. I think it was yesterday, there was a shooting at a Navy academy. I really
but it doesn't make the Charlie Kirk shooting okay, just because somebody else got shot.
I'm not saying it's okay. No, I didn't get to my point. Absolutely not. That's not.
I know that's not the point you're saying.
We're gonna cut that out.
No, I know that's not the point you're making.
No, but I'm saying that remember, I always tell people, in the situations like these, we always have to ask, who does this benefit?
It benefits Russia.
Thank you. And I'm pretty sure once they have a hand in all these shootings and destabilization and chaos, because it benefits them, because then United States, everyone is focused, as we should be, on domestic, I guess, domestic discourse, let's put it that way, but now it's violence. So we're not looking elsewhere while they're, trying to invade other countries other than Ukraine and escalating their war. So this benefits, and it started happening pretty much right after Russia, Xi Jinping, and had their last week, had their summit. It's no coincidence, and I'm 100% sure. And
Can I say
will
it
get
with
worse.
you?
It will get worse.
And can I say something? And guys, I believe this 175%. Russia orchestrated the killing of Charlie Kirk. I'm so confident of this. Like,
Thank you for saying it.
take me to whatever thing, like stop watching this thing. I promise you that's exactly what happened. First of all, it's such a Russian thing to do. Even though some may say, oh, he was saying things sympathetic to Russia, Russia will throw you under the bus in a second, especially if you like Russia. And they've done it. Remember, they killed a Ukrainian journalist, Oles Buzina. He was saying Russian messages every day, every day, every day. He was such a provocative figure in Ukrainian space. They killed him right when they were, attacking Ukraine to switch up the political information space, to control the information space. He was theirs, like, of course, they view him as a Ukrainian subhuman, but he was promoting a Russian message and all that. They will kill you. It doesn't matter if you can never be on the Russian side where they accept you. You can only be on the Russian side as a useful idiot. They always see you as a potential target, a threat. If you're useful to them, they will tolerate you for a little bit, but they'll throw you under the bus. And here's what Russia is doing in America. It's the same thing. We just had a prominent political figure murdered in Ukraine, in the most Ukrainian city, in Lviv, where everyone loves Ukraine. And it's such a like inexplicable thing that happened. And then you talk to that guy who killed the Parubi, the Ukrainian political figure. Nothing he says makes sense. Basically, it's the guy that's on the verge of mental breakdown. But this is what Russia does. They work with you. They work with people. They establish these connections. They work with you. They work with people who are on the verge of mental breakdown, because those are the people who can be and will be radicalized. It's the same principle as suicide bombers. They don't go to like the richest house with the guy who's like driving a Mercedes. They go to people on the verge of some life events, who maybe lost a father or something happened. It doesn't even matter. Maybe a broken heart. We don't even know the story of this Charlie Kirk thing. It appears he was a white guy from a good Republican family. It doesn't matter. Russia will find you. They will exploit you. They will make a way. They are doing this. It's not that they will do it. They are doing this.
If you're not aware of it, like if you're not interested in politics or geopolitics, it will find you. You're the perfect target to manipulate and brainwash and spread.
And look how easily Russia switched up our information space with this. And I'm saying like it's a proven. I 100% believe it was Russia behind this. 100%. It's such an un-American thing. And Charlie Kirk, out of all people, I mean, with all the disagreements that I have with him, I mean, the least deserving of something like this, But
well, he actually, guys, he dehumanized Ukrainians quite a bit. He dehumanized Zelensky. I mean, I have a couple of Charlie Kirks.
He's not a friend of Ukraine.
No.
Charlie Kirk is not a friend of Ukraine. He's not a friend of mine.
No.
It's not about that.
No.
It's nothing. I don't care, you know. But Russia will. They don't. Russians don't care, you know, and I don't care because he's an American. It's an American discourse. You have to see it from the viewpoint of non-American person, somebody who is not an American, right? There are no Republicans and Democrats. There are no liberals and conservatives. Not really. This is your game that Americans are playing within. Nobody else cares in the world, not even in Canada.
So many people, and including my friends, that were pulled into the culture war. They're so intelligent, very wise people, and all of a sudden they got caught up in a culture war. All of a sudden, that's all what they started caring about. So this is, and Americans, that's all what they care about now. So whenever we say like, oh, this was Russia, they're too far like brainwashed here in America. They're so laser focused on this culture war. I don't know how or if or when it's ever going to get solved. That's extremely frightening.
And somehow,
And culture war was created by Russia, just to, bring it to a
and
point.
somehow, you know, the Russian wet dream is civil war in the United States, and for some reason, Republicans are more plugged into Russian information and Russian information space. They get more of the Russian propaganda. They think it's truth. And as soon as this happened, a lot of prominent Republican voices started saying, war, war, this is war. War against who? Against America, this is America
Don't say
against
them,
America.
it's them,
This
it's
is
the elite,
this is
it's
Russian wet dream. This is what Russia dreams about in their wildest, wettest dreams. They cannot come up with a better outcome of anything like this. It is such a Russian thing that Charlie, if Russians did not do this murder, they're not doing their job. That's why I'm so convinced. I know they're doing it. By the way, Adam Brown's a broadcast cat, all the guys who are commenting, thank you so much. Thank you for supporting, for being active, for making the stream up in the ranks. Hopefully more and more people will tune in and listen to this. Slavie, do you want, of course, this is very hard topics to discuss, but we had to do it, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Do you want to continue this or do you want anything else? I have some fun news.
I think we can move on to fun news and then start wrapping up.
Starting in September of 2025, which is right now, Ukrainian will officially become the second foreign language offered in French schools for the first time ever. Yes. There was reported by D1 TV channel in France. So the pilot project will launch in 4 districts: in Paris, in Versailles, in Créteil, and Alpes-Maritimes, which is Nice. This means that Ukrainian children will be able to study in their native language, preserve their identity, and feel at home even far from Ukraine. This is good news, positive news. Ukrainians are integrating, spreading their culture. Ukrainian is a great culture, vibrant culture, peaceful culture. We always come to other places. We want to learn what's going on. That's another difference between Russians and Ukrainians. Russians never want to integrate. Ukrainians are happy to celebrate themselves because we're proud of who we are. We're proud of being Ukrainian. But we also celebrate other cultures. We like French, we like Americans, we like Canadians, we like all the different Mexicans. I love traveling, I love exploring, finding different people. That's another difference between us and Russians. And this is great, the Ukrainian culture coming to France. Everybody can stand behind something like that.
Yeah, Ukraine has a lot of ties with France, a lot. Going back
and
to
historical going back to the Rus, as we discussed Rus.
Yaroslav the Wise, my namesake.
Yeah, Yaroslav the Wise, his daughter Anna she was sent to Paris, to France, and she married a French monarch, and she was spreading Ukrainian message. And so historically, France and Ukraine are very connected. And it was kind of funny
Well,
that
actually, it's known because he had four daughters, Yaroslav the Wise, and he also sent them to Europe. Into it's basically known fact that Ukrainian blood is like European royal blood. It's what
yeah,
started it all.
it's true.
Because,
It's just a fact. And it was funny how Putin came to Paris and he was talking to Macron and he's like, "Well, our Russian Princess Anna Yaroslavna, so Russia and France is so tied together historically," and Macron is like sitting and nodding like, and I'm thinking, are you dense? Like I'm thinking about Macron, but he wasn't. He saw right through that. So a week later, Zelensky was in Paris, and Macron brought it up. He said, "Oh, Anna Yaroslavna, she's Ukrainian. We have good ties with Ukraine." Macron brought it up, and obviously he knows history, so that's good. Russians hate history, by the way. They come up with their own versions of each point of history. If you learn history, if you're well versed in history about what actually happened, that you can counter Russian like alternative history, they hate that because they cannot fight against that.
yeah. Well, I think we should start wrapping up. But before we do, I think we have to answer the question. That's the title of the street. Street. Oh my gosh, yeah. We got to wrap
Title
up.
of the street.
The name of this live stream.
What is
And
it,
the
by
question was, has World War III begun? What's your answer to that question, Johnny?
Definitely, it's begun. I mean, it's undeniable. No reasonable person will deny. You have to understand that a lot of things that are happening right now, they are acts of war. The whole world is engulfed. You are not out of this war no matter what you do. Your only two choices right now are to support Russia or to support Ukraine. Like for example, India, they're neutral. They're saying we just want peace. They're saying all the right things, but they're buying Russian oil. They're sustaining Russian economy. They're making Russian invasion and genocide of Ukrainians possible. There's no other way to look at it, but their hands are in blood. You, whether you understand this or you don't understand this, you are either sustaining Russia, helping Russia continue its genocidal war, or you're helping Ukraine defend the Western values, defend the current world order, which Russia is going to try to destroy, together with China, together with North Korea, with Iran, with India, whoever is going to join. And then smaller countries, they're going to see that we don't have leadership, we don't have resolve. They're going to join the Russian side, the Chinese side. A lot of countries, they don't care one way or the other, So it's very important to show support for Ukraine right now while we can, while we have the momentum, while Ukraine is beating Russia on the battlefront. The war is much greater than that. We're getting attacked in cyberspace. We're getting attacked anywhere where it's possible, politically, informationally, by Russia. I'm talking about the United States is being attacked. They will kill our people over here in the United States. They will kill our voices, like Charlie Kirk, which I'm sure was helped in some way by Russia. I just don't know how. I don't know how to prove it, but it all points in that direction. So that's my stake. Yeah, that's my take.
Yeah.
See, I used the wrong words as well. Instead of "that's my take," I said "that's my stake." Just to give you some support. You're not the only one fumbling words.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to wrap this up. Gotta run, but yeah, what a week it has been. That's for sure. and it's only gonna get worse, unfortunately, before it starts getting better. And that's why we are here. So we'll be streaming much, much more. We'll be doing breaking news uh, like the day of. So make sure you ring the bell so you don't miss our live streams and videos and content coming out. Because it's better if we, I guess, suffer together than alone and talk about these things. And hopefully one day end up in a just and peaceful and victorious world. But yeah, this is first ever SlavaCast is now on the books. So made it through. And yeah, and to every single one of you watching, thank you so much. Every like, every share, every comment, every time you show up here, you're telling YouTube that that this matters, basically. Supporting Ukraine isn't just charity, so please donate to Ukrainian causes, drones, cars. It's the price of a free future, and Ukraine is still paying in blood for all of us. So here's what I want you to think about. Yeah, we have a little bit of a homework until next time, but here's the question. If this is what the world looks like while we're still half asleep, some of us are looking away, what do you think? What happens if we never wake up? Scary, isn't it? But before you go, you can help. You can hit like, share the stream, subscribe if you haven't, and tell someone why this conversation matters. That's how we make sure the next one is even louder. So be brave, be relentless, be brave like Ukraine. God bless the world. May we come out on the other side prosperous and victorious, and a just and lasting peace. And to Ukraine, thank you for being the bravest nation on earth. So, Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Bye, guys. How do I end this?
I don't know. You're in charge.
I think it's done.
You tell me.
Yeah, no, it's done.
And then we're gonna be here for like five more hours. Is it finished?
No, it's done. It's done.
For sure.
Yeah.
Should I click end stream?
Yeah.
For sure,
But
right?
It should be done. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Adam says still on. We're still on. Well, I'm still on. Maybe you're not. Okay. I'm
You're
gonna end
still
stream.
on because end
Okay,
stream.
guys. This is a learning experience. So you're at the very beginning of all this. Thank you for being here.